Good evening. I'm YAMO. Tonight's report takes us to one of the most contested cities in human history, Jerusalem, and examines a turning point that reshaped not only political control of the city, but also the way conquest and governance were remembered across civilizations. In the year 1099, during the First Crusade, Jerusalem fell to Crusader forces advancing from Western Europe. These armies were largely composed of Latin Catholic warriors who had marched across continents with the declared goal of reclaiming the city. When they breached Jerusalem's defenses, historical records from multiple sources describe widespread bloodshed. Many Muslim and Jewish residents were killed during the capture, marking one of the most violent transitions of power in the city's history. But the aftermath of the conquest did not only affect Muslims and Jews. Eastern Christian communities, particularly Orthodox Christians, who had long been part of Jerusalem's religious landscape, found themselves facing a new political and religious hierarchy. The Crusader authorities reorganized the city's religious administration, replacing Orthodox leadership in several churches with Latin Catholic control. Major holy sites shifted under Catholic oversight, and Orthodox communities often saw their authority reduced. They were not entirely expelled from the city, but tensions between the Crusader rulers and Eastern Christian populations remained a consistent feature of Crusader Jerusalem. For nearly 90 years, Jerusalem remained under Crusader governance. Yet the balance of power in the region began to change in the late 12th century, with the rise of a Kurdish general who would become one of the most studied military and political figures of the medieval world, Salahuddin Ayyubi. In 1187, following his decisive victory at the Battle of Hattin, Salahuddin launched a campaign that would culminate in the recapture of Jerusalem. What followed became one of the most referenced contrasts in medieval warfare. Historical accounts widely note that Salahuddin did not repeat the large-scale massacres that had occurred during the Crusader conquest decades earlier. Instead, civilians were allowed to leave the city through negotiated agreements. Many prisoners were released or ransomed. Religious sanctuaries were protected rather than destroyed. Christian pilgrimage to Jerusalem, an essential religious tradition, was permitted to continue under new administration. Perhaps most significant was the restoration of Jerusalem's multi-religious structure. Orthodox Christian communities regained access to their religious institutions and influence within the city's spiritual life. Jewish communities, many of whom had been displaced during earlier conflicts, were allowed to return and resettle. Muslim governance was reinstated, but it operated alongside the continued presence of other faith communities. This transformation was documented not only in Islamic chronicles, but also in accounts written by Western historians and Crusader-era observers, many of whom expressed surprise at the level of restraint shown after the city's recapture. The events surrounding Jerusalem during this period reveal more than military victories or territorial shifts. They highlight competing models of rule one driven by exclusivity and conquest, and another that sought to stabilize a sacred city through negotiated coexistence among religious communities. Jerusalem's history reminds us that the way power is exercised often defines how civilizations are remembered. Conquests can reshape borders, but governance determines whether societies fracture or endure. For History Watch, I'm YAMO. Good night.